Hello, listeners of Channel 88.1 FM, KFHC Ponca Sioux City, and KOIA Storm Lake. I am so glad you set your dials to Channel 88.1 FM, or perhaps you have gone to our website, SiouxlandCatholicRadio.com, clicked on My Mug, and are listening in that manner. I am the host of this show. It's Faith in Action, and I'm Joanne Fox. And again, thank you so very much for joining me today. So, as you well know with this show, it's all about me and my friends, and I love bringing in pals to talk about neat stuff that's always going on and that I'm interested in. So I hope you are interested in it as well, because I feel very strongly about it. And one of my longtime buddies is in the studio with me, Amy Block. She's the Executive Director of Catholic Charities for the Diocese of Sioux City. Welcome, Amy.
It is so great to be back sitting across the desk from you, Joanne. So thanks for asking me to be here.
You bet. And listeners, you may be familiar with Catholic Charities and all the wonderful services they provide. But first, I think the listeners might want to know a little bit about yourself, Amy. So why don't you share with them a little bit about you?
Sure. So I've been with Catholic Charities almost a full 8 years now, but where I come from is up in Minnesota. I've lost almost all of my accent now, which makes me a little bit sad. I don't know if that makes me not from there anymore or not, but that's where really I grew up. And I was raised in a small town up there, and my grandparents had a farm over in Owatonna, Minnesota.
Okay.
And my grandma was such a devout Catholic. She used to knit baby bonnets for the babies, and loved Mother Angelica. I used to watch her on EWTN. And that's really how I grew up and went to Catholic school. My parents worked extra jobs to make sure that my sister and I were able to do that. And so that's always just been very instilled in me. And I ended up going to college here at a Morningside. I did have a couple other stints in some other colleges, but we don't need to really go into why that didn't work out because I did end up graduating here from Morningside and met my husband. I've been married 18 years, and we have a 14-year-old daughter who just finished at Sacred Heart and will be starting Healing here in the fall. And so I spent my first 20 years of my career working for Jackson Recovery Centers and working in substance use and mental health, and had done some consulting for the diocese. And so when the position came open, Christy Arlt, who used to work for the diocese, called and said, "Hey, the executive director position is open, and why don't you apply for it?" And I thought, no, my plan was to just finish out my career at Jackson. It's now Rosecrans. And, but I thought, well, I guess I really don't have much to lose. And so I went and interviewed and with Bishop Nicholas, and there was about 9 or 10 other people. Cheryl McGowan was part of that group, and some other folks. And, remember walking out of there, and I thought it went really, really well. And the next day I withdrew my application. And I thought, nope, I was loyal to where I was at. That was my plan. I loved where I was. And I just thought, nope. So a couple weeks later, Royce Raniger calls, and he says, "Amy, the bishop's been praying on this, and would you reconsider and meet with me?" And that good old Catholic guilt.
Oh, yes.
We all talk about, well, it's true. And I thought, oh, my Grandma Kyer, she would not be happy if I didn't at least, meet with them. So I met with Christy and Royce, and we met over at BA's, and that's where we met and talked more about it. And I talked to my family, and I did praying on it. And I really believe I was called to go over to Catholic Charities. And that's where I've been for the past 8 years. And it has been such a blessing in my life. And, you think about the name of your show. I've always had faith, and, Catholicism has been part of my life, but never like I do now. It has really strengthened my faith, and I've really been able to put it into action and really do something with my faith. And it has been such a blessing in my life.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. We've collaborated on so many different articles. We've collaborated on shows for Siouxland Catholic Radio, and I think both of us would point to the Holy Spirit kind of leading us into these ministries in which we can kind of give back and yet at the same time be enhanced in our faith.
Absolutely.
And one of the things we're going to talk about again, and there's a reason why I have Amy on the show. It's just not to talk about all the great things that Catholic Charities is doing, but specifically one aspect, and that is the Closet of Hope. But we're going to tease the listeners because now they're going to have to wait a little bit because we may have listeners who have absolutely no idea about the foundation of Catholic Charities in the Diocese of Sioux City is remarkable when you look back. Those wonderful women who looked around and saw a need. And Amy, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about how Catholic Charities got started for the Diocese of Sioux City?
It is really remarkable. And, it really started way back in the 1920s, Catholic Women's League, way back then. And they saw a need. Children in the streets weren't being taken care of. I mean, that's the history of the world, really. There's always been people in need somewhere, and they reached out to take care of them, provide them with food, provide them with shelter. And that's really the start of the Catholic Charities that we know today, which looks very different from the services we're providing in some sense. But that's where it started, and it has transitioned over the years. It started there. It was at one time Catholic Charities had an orphanage for children. I know our friend Leonard Gill used to talk, who passed recently, used to talk about that being part of his history there. It was a home for unwed mothers. That's been part of the history of Catholic Charities. But really for about the past 78 years or so, mental health has been a big focus of Catholic Charities. And Father O'Keefe found that unless you had money, you were not able to access mental health services. And so he paid to have people go and get their master's degree. And he really believed that everybody should have access to mental health care. And one of those individuals was Audra Cole, who I really say to her all the time. She's really a champion here in our community, and that I get to stand on her shoulders all of the time because she was really fought a lot for helping the vulnerable in our community. She was one of those individuals, went back, got master's degrees, came back, wanting to make sure that everybody has access to mental health care. And that's been really one of our biggest focuses over the past 75 years. Since then, we have offices in Carroll, Storm Lake, Fort Dodge, Algona, and Spencer.
Yeah, and of course the main office is here in Sioux City.
Correct.
And serving, the Diocese of Sioux City.
Right.
But also, I imagine you have a few clients that come in from northeast Nebraska and southeast South Dakota, even though both of those dioceses have their own Catholic Charities entities.
That's right.
But we cross that river, that Big
We do.
Sioux River and that Missouri
do.
River quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is another strength, is your ability to serve those other populations as well.
We do. We serve anyone who walks through our doors, regardless of your faith, regardless of your background. We serve all, and we serve because we are Catholic. We're not here to serve Catholics. We serve because we are Catholic.
Yeah, we want to make sure the listeners understand that although it's Catholic Charities, you don't have to be Catholic. In essence, you're kind of non-denominational in that,
Absolutely.
If you walk in the door and you go, well, you know what, I'm kind of Methodist, sort of, maybe at Christmas.
Yeah.
That if you have challenges or issues or concerns, that you reach out to these people and say, we can be there to help you.
Right. We don't ask. We don't ask what your faith is. We don't ask if you have faith. I mean, of course, we hope that that's the case, but we don't ask that. We just are glad that if you are struggling with anything that's happening in your life, that you're reaching out to us. We know that if right now, especially in our world, especially with kids, in fact, 38% of the individuals seeking help right now are children, are parents of children, or guardians of children. And we know that in that moment, that it's really important that we're able to get people in. So we don't really, it doesn't really matter to us what your background is. We just want to get you in and get you some help and support.
And listeners, as you know, if you listen to this program, we're going to take a short break. And again, I'm going to tease you a little bit because it's the Closet of Hope we want to talk about on this program. But we also have many other things to talk about that are associated with Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Sioux City. So we ask you to stay tuned because Faith in Action will be right back.
Tim, Danielle, and their staff have worked in public accounting in Siouxland area for more than 25 years. They have been involved in the ownership and management of certified public accounting firms since 1996. This experience gives them a unique perspective on the problems that face small businesses. They give guidance in the area of profit margins, managing payroll costs and their benefits, transition management, and retirement planning. To find out more, you can call Tim or Danielle at 605-242-6617. Tim is a 1979 graduate of Bishop Heelan and has children and grandchildren either graduated or currently in the system. Swedin and Company are proud supporters of KFHC and Heelan Athletics.
Welcome back, listeners of Faith in Action. I'm your host, Joanne Fox, and what a treat this has been to have my good buddy Amy Block, who's Executive Director of Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Sioux City, back in the studio. So many wonderful things. We're about 15 minutes into the show, and my goodness, we really covered a lot of great stuff about Catholic Charities in that first quarter of an hour. And of course, I'm teasing you again with the Closet of Hope. And listeners, this to me is the power of social media. You know, I have been in the field of journalism for, 5 decades or so. And I had no idea there was such a thing. And how many stories Amy and I have collaborated on is just beyond comprehension. But I'm going through Facebook, which I love because I love the puppy pictures and I love the pictures of my friends' kids. And here is this post about this Closet of Hope. And I did a double take. And so I read it, of course, in its entirety. And I thought, this is a show. You talk about faith in action. This is it. So I called Amy and I said, we need to do this. And so now we are doing this. So, Amy, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about the story behind the Closet of Hope?
I would love to, because let me tell you, it's a fantastic story. And most people don't know the story behind it. So back in August of 2028, well, it started with it being this dream that I had many years ago, because we have many of the clients we work with are lower income, and we have people who walk in off the streets who are in need of things. Now, we typically refer people to other community partners or agency who can meet their needs, whether it's for food or clothing or things like that. But often those agencies might not be open at the time, or you might have to wait a few days, things like that. So it was always one of my dreams. What if we could have something that at least to get them through until that time would come, right? So back in August of 2018, and later I'll tell you why that that time frame is so fresh in my mind, I got a phone call from a man named Denny Hardy. And I'm sitting in my office and the phone rings and I answer and I say, hello, this is Amy. And he said, well, good morning, Amy. This is Denny Hardy from Section 4 in Sheridan, Iowa. Bigger than life, this big booming voice. And I say, well, hello there, Denny. How are you? And I'm wondering, who in the heck is this guy? And he says to me, I just finished reading your article in your newsletter. And this newsletter, I'm a breast cancer survivor of about 6 years. I had stage 2 breast cancer. And it's the first time I had ever written about it publicly. And I went through about a year's worth of treatment. And in the article, I had written about the gifts that can come from going through really difficult situation. And I had written about the challenge for my daughter. My daughter was 6 years old when I had gone through this, but all of the gifts that came from it. And he had referenced that article and how after reading it, he thought that I was the person to contact for what he had in mind. And if you remember back Yonkers, we used to have Yonkers here in Sioux City. Good old Yonkers, which I miss. I miss for the
Me
shoes.
too.
Back.
Yeah,
the shoes. I
ditto.
miss the shoes. Yonkers was going out of business around the state of Iowa, and he said that he was working on a deal. And he was working on a deal to buy out Yonkers, and that there would be a bunch of clothing, that he was working to buy out the clothing. And would we be interested in taking that? If he could buy it, would we have a use for it for our clients? And in my head, I'm thinking, we do mental health services. We don't have a place for this. What in the world would we do with all this clothing? So I'm thinking, well, but I don't want to say no, because having all this brand new clothing would be so wonderful for our clients, for people who come in. And this guy obviously is somebody who would be a wonderful resource for us at Catholic Charities and the people we work with. So I said, well, it's not anything we've ever done before, but sure, I'm sure we could find a use for it. And we have other partners here in the community. And sure, he's like, well, I'm not really sure when it's going to be, and I'm not really sure how it's going to work, but just stay ready. And I'm thinking, okay. So he goes, I'll be in touch. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness. So then he calls me a couple weeks later. He's like, okay, I think I'm working on the deal, and it's going to be over in Des Moines. The one over in Des Moines was the one he was working with. And now I can't go get it. Can you find a way to go over and pick it up? And I said, sure. And I'm not sure how much it's going to be. I'm not sure. So, but can you figure out a way to get it? And I'm like, sure, I'll figure it out. So that night I'm at home with my husband, and now I don't know how much it's going to be. So I don't know if it's going to fit in the back of my car, or do I need a U-Haul truck? So do I need a semi? It's Yonkers. I have no idea. So my husband's calling places, I'm calling. So I end up settling on this small U-Haul truck. And Denny's he's like, I'll know later tonight. It was wild, Joanne. And in my head, I'm thinking, what am I getting into? I don't know this, what's going on. So he works out the deal. He buys out what's left in this Yonkers store. I'm thinking, anyway, so I pick up this little small U-Haul, drive over to the store over in Des Moines. And I'm the only one there. I couldn't find any staff to go and help me. So, but they said that they'd have a couple staff members. So it's myself and this one other little gal. And we've got these little loaders, and we load up the back of this U-Haul. And that was the start of the Closet of Hope.
Oh, wow. That is a powerful, powerful story.
So we load it back up. It's in these bins, and it's all this brand new clothing. And for Denny, it was that he really believed that people, individuals, especially those who didn't have anything, deserved something new. That they would feel of value, that they would have self-respect, and more so to have something new. And that was the start of our relationship with Denny Hardy. And we brought it back. It was all in big garbage bags. So we had to bring it back. We had to sort it. Tens of thousands of dollars worth of brand new clothes. And there were also bags worth they just gave us of stuff like these, gold pina colada mugs and all sorts of other random things. But so our staff then folded them up. We put them in bins and labeled them. And he then went on about a year later. It was a Baumgars over near Algona that was getting rid of a seasonal end of season that he bought Carhartt shirts and jeans.
Very popular.
Those types of things. And that's really where it all began. And it all just sat in this spare room in tubs. And as people needed things, our clients or people walked in, we would pull them out. And how it evolved was we then wrote for a grant. And then we transformed one of our large group rooms. We moved a group. We were doing a group for clients in one room. We moved them out. We got a grant where we were able to purchase shelving And so we were able to sort it out. So then it became something when we had individuals, they could come in and look through it, and our staff could look through it more. We shared some of it with one of the shelters here in town because we had so much. We shared some of it with Holy Spirit Retirement Home. For some of that, we had a bunch of more for elderly clothing. We brought some up there. We shared it. And we still have a lot of clothing left because there was so much that we continue to do that for individuals who are really in need. And it has really just continued to grow and expand in regards to the use for that room. We now stock it full of diapers and infant formula. We're contacted by a church over in Forsyth, Nebraska. They make layette bags for new moms that are filled with blankets and baby bottles and baby toys and things like that. And we get 100 of those every year. And so we share those with some community partners. And then if we have new moms in need, we are able to distribute those. The Knights of Columbus bring us coats every winter that we house in there for individuals who are in need of coats. We also get some, hygiene bags if someone's in need of homeless, or if they're homeless, to give them some hygiene bags. So those are just a few of the uses, and we also have some other things that we've continued to expand it to as well. But that was the start.
And it's an astonishing story of how the Holy Spirit really touched Denny and said, you need to do this. And so listeners, of course, if you follow the show, it's time to take another short break, which we are going to do. But then we are going to be right back with a lot more about Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Sioux City. So stay tuned.
Hi, this is Nick Haggerty, president of Prime Bank in Sioux City and 1996 graduate of Heelan High School, along with Dave Haggerty, senior vice president and 2002 graduate. Prime Bank is proud to be a supporter of Catholic Radio and Bishop Heelan Athletics. For over 127 years, Prime Bank has been committed to the communities we serve. As a community bank, we take pride in supporting educational and extracurricular opportunities that help students reach their potential. At Prime Bank, we want the same for you. Make Prime Bank the first choice for your financial needs. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hello again, listeners of Channel 88.1 FM, KFHC Ponca Sioux City, and KOIA Storm Lake. Well, we are halfway into Faith in Action, and what a wonderful story that Amy Block, who's Executive Director of Catholic Charities, shared with us in the last kind of segment of the show about the Closet of Hope and this wonderful individual who stepped up to the plate. Again, I've often said the Holy Spirit works in mysterious ways. We never understand or comprehend how powerful our faith is in touching people and their response. And this Closet of Hope is absolutely astonishing. As I said in the previous segment, I had no idea there was such a thing. And that social media post immediately kind of piqued my thoughts. And we got to do a show on this.
Yeah.
So, Amy, there's more, of course, as Paul Harvey says, and now here's the rest of the story, because there's more about this Closet of Hope.
Yeah, it has really continued to evolve and has served so many people. What really started as my dream, just in my mind of what we might be able to do, I think then, thinking about one person reading something, and, I think he would say, and I think his family would say, that he was then called after reading something, contacted me, and how it's evolved now. We have had such generous people continue to give to us. We've had a wonderful woman who provides us with stuffed animals. And those stuffed animals we use to give to kids when they're coming in for their first appointments. I mentioned that so many of the kids that we see, about 38% of our clients, are children coming in for services, and often so scared and nervous, and they're coming to this new place and they have things going on in their life. and to be able to say, would you like a teddy bear? Come back. We have panda bears or monkeys. And in fact, I was up at the front desk. It's probably been 2 weeks ago. And there was this little girl there. She was there with her mom and her sister, and they are living at the domestic violence shelter here in town and had recently left a bad situation. And the mom, wanted to get them both in for mental health services. And she was maybe 6 or 7, and they were standing at the front desk while mom was filling out their paperwork. And I said, would you like a stuffed animal? And her eyes got real big and smile. And I came back out, and it was this huge teddy bear with this big red bow. And I come out and I give it to her, and her face lit up. And I said, now you have to give it a name. And she said, okay. And I said, so when you come back next week, you let me know what it is. And okay. And I just happened to be walking by the next week. I said, did you give it a name? And she said, yes. And I said, so what is it? And it was something to do with the red name. I said, that is a great name. And she was just beaming. And little things like that make such a difference. And so having that space, this closet of hope, to be able to provide things like that makes such a big difference. We had one of the teachers who's actually on our board at Sacred Heart. They did one of their service days. They had, different grades bring different things. So some of the grades did clothing for toddlers and babies, brand new clothing. Some of the other grades did gift cards for food and gas cards. So they did that this spring. So that's all been added to our Closet of Hope. That all went, which of course now with the gas prices as they are, that's been such a huge need just for people to be able to get to work, get to medical appointments. One of the gift cards that we had, a young girl who is a client of our, one of our therapists needed clothing towards the end of school. She just didn't have any clothing, was able to go to Target with her mom and get some new clothing. So that was one of the gift cards that was able to be used. So again, it's really just allowed us to meet some of those needs that otherwise we really wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah, and I think that's it, is that Catholic Charities has always stepped up to the plate. And when a need is there, then they follow through, which that speaks highly of the organization and then its supporters who are, maybe listening to this program right now and thinking to themselves, wow, this is really great, all the wonderful things they're doing. Sometimes we become so self-absorbed in our own lives, we don't realize that there are organizations that are really doing tremendous service to the Siouxland area.
Right. And I think, people listening kind of throughout the diocese too, we really try to make sure it's certainly located in Sioux City, but we also really work to make sure that we can share those resources with our other sites. Oftentimes our other, offices in those rural areas have even less resources than we do here. So we are always making sure that if they have clients or families in need in those other offices, that we can get them resources. We have their staff either drive there, we meet them part way, we can send things there to make sure that, they have access to those as well. One of the things I'm really proud of that we've been able to do a couple different things. We had an influx of Afghani refugees here in our community, and they really came here with nothing. And so we were able to provide 3 different families with clothing. That was, a big thing that we were really able to do. They were so overwhelmed with gratitude. They could not believe, they were able to come in and get that. We're so grateful for the kindness that was shown to them to be able to walk in and experience that. Was really proud that we were able to be a part of that, and we worked collaboratively with Mary Tralia. Lutheran Social Services is doing that now, And that's also something I think it's really important that we try in all cases to really work with our community partners here.
And there are a number, and you just mentioned a few of them, that have long histories in helping those less fortunate. And yes, the less fortunate are among us, and that's a reality. And I think it's so interesting that the individual, Denny, who started all this, came from Siouxland, Iowa, which, is not exactly a large, thriving community.
Yeah.
But again, what a powerful message from the Holy Spirit
Right.
or our Blessed Mother or whoever touched him and said, you know what, maybe you need to do something here. And then that took it to the next step.
Yeah. And one of the things so Denny was a man just full of life, and he ended up becoming part of our board. He said to me when I asked him about that, he said, I don't know, I'm a doer, not a guy to sit around a table, talking about things. And, unfortunately he passed away recently, which was a huge loss to us, to his family, who he loved deeply. They're such a faith-filled family, and myself and Amy Jones had an opportunity to meet with his wife Michelle and his son Brogan, who actually is going to take Denny's place on the board in his honor.
Wonderful.
Which we're very grateful for. And we are actually going to change the name of the Closet of Hope to Hardy's Hope Closet in Denny's honor. And I'm to carry on his legacy. And I think it's only fitting, since what he really started, I think will continue in his honor.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because we know that the need will always be there. And what another wonderful service the Catholic Charities, and God bless Denny Hardy, who is probably looking down on us and smiling right now about our ability to publicize what one person can do. We talk about individuals making a difference, and he certainly has. And so it's wonderful the Catholic Charities is providing this opportunity for clients to thrive and be great citizens. And so we're going to be a good citizen right now, because we are going to take a break so that we can take another swig of coffee and another swig of water, so we can continue with our last segment of Faith in Action. So listeners, keep that dial on 88.1 FM, because we will be right back.
Hi, I'm Father Mark Barron. Did you know the St. Augustine Indian Mission, founded in 1909, is the only school in Siouxland founded by a saint? The Winnebago people asked St. Catherine Drexel to help educate their children and build a school. Today, St. Augustine Indian Mission is a K-8 school and serves both the Winnebago and Omaha tribes of Nebraska. Visit the mission or visit our website at staugustinemission.org, staugustinemission.org. The mission is a proud sponsor of Siouxland Catholic Radio and Bishop Healing Catholic High School Sports. Go Crusaders.
Hello again, listeners of Channel 88.1 FM, KFHC Ponca Sioux City and KOIA Storm Lake. We're so glad that you have been with us, maybe from the top of the hour. And if you're just joining us, welcome. We are again grateful for your support and any other prayers that you have for us, because we so strongly believe in our ministry here at Siouxland Catholic Radio. And so, again, thank you. We're wrapping up the show now. We got just maybe about 13 to 15 minutes left. And my guest in the studio is Amy Block, who's Executive Director of Catholic Charities for the Diocese of Sioux City, which also serves Northeast Nebraska and Southeast South Dakota. And any faith or no faith, we love Catholic Charities and all the wonderful services it's providing. And so we've kind of talked about, a little bit of the history. We focused a great deal on this Closet of Hope, which now has segued to a new name, and that is, Amy?
Hardy's Hope Closet.
Hardy's Hope Closet. And what a wonderful, wonderful story about this gentleman from Siouxland, Iowa, that somehow was touched and now Amy's dream has become a reality. And clients, I know you talked a little bit about them and how grateful they are. And I think that's the key is we can't understand the impact we have on others until they tell us how important it is. Because a lot of time I think we go through motions and say, oh, we're just doing this. And then somebody says something so powerful to us that we go, wow, I didn't realize I touched that person, or we touched that person, or our organization touched that persons. And I think that's what's going on with so many of the wonderful things that Catholic Charities does. And so in addition to Hardy's Closet of Hope, there's other things that are going on at Catholic Charities that the listeners might want to know about. And I'm going to let Amy kind of share some of the high points.
Yes, I think the biggest thing that is really happening is we are moving in our Fort Dodge office. We just purchased a new building. We've been renting space in Fort Dodge, and I just found that financially it just wasn't working very well. And Monsignor McCoy, you want to talk about a good buddy to have, he said, we have a wonderful parishioner here, and I'm going to put you in touch with him. Talk about great stories. This is another one. And so he put us in touch with someone down there, and he said, I've got a building you should look at that's for sale. It's been for sale for a long time. And we took a look at it. It was in a fantastic location that was really near a part of town where a lot of our clients we serve, the Women and Children Shelter, where we serve a lot of clients there, right on Central Avenue. And we took a look at it, and we bought it. It's just great location. It's going to be a very welcoming space, handicap accessible, and we have a little bit of minor construction we have to do there. Again, connected us with another wonderful parishioner there who had done some work on the another building that Monsignor McCoy had there, and hopefully we're going to be in there in the beginning or end of August. So that is just going to be wonderful. Fort Dodge is really kind of another kind of on the other end of the diocese, so it's great. We feel that's been another area. It's our other second biggest office. We have 3 therapists there. It's a very busy office. There we see a lot of people in. And so we're really excited that that's going to be happening for us here in the next couple of months.
That is a great announcement. I think I saw that on social media as well.
Yes.
So thank you, Facebook, for providing me with stories for my program.
Yes.
And so, congrats on that. And again, who knows, the Holy Spirit, again, directing people in mysterious ways to help us all in what we need to do. And I'd be remiss, Amy, if I didn't say the big word always associated with Catholic Charities, and that's adoptions.
Yes, I think, and there's been I think much happening in the media, and with Roe v. Wade having been overturned and things like that. I know it's been a challenging time on social media for all of that. There's a lot happening out there that I think people. I think it's great to talk about good things.
Yes, I agree.
That are happening out there. And, adoption is something that Catholic Charities has been a part of, way back. We have files that are back from 1910 that Catholic Charities was a part of. And I am blessed every day that is part of my job. It wasn't always when I started at Catholic Charities. But some people who that was their job aren't there anymore. And so now I get to be part of adoption searches. Catholic Charities doesn't do adoptions anymore. We don't place babies, but we do adoption searches. Adoption, that has changed a little bit. In January of this year, the state of Iowa passed a law where now children who were placed for adoption can access their original birth certificates.
Oh.
So that was a big change. Prior to that, it was closed. They had no access to that. Now, Catholic Charities still cannot provide that information. So it's been very interesting. We still really encourage that people go through Catholic Charities if they're trying to locate a birth parent. Because as you can imagine, a mother who placed a child for adoption, to get just a phone call from maybe that child out of the blue can be a lot to process.
Sure.
And it can oftentimes go much better if Catholic Charities is the one to reach out, because there's a lot of feelings that are associated with that. You know, depending on the time frame when it was, there might be a situation that was very challenging. Things depending on the time frame. There might have been a lot of shame. There might have been family members who weren't very happy with it back then. And so we're able to really help with that process. But, you know, adoption is such a beautiful and wonderful and selfless choice. And I always, when I talk to birth moms, just say what a loving, loving choice that is to have made. And the children that I work with are so grateful for the choice that was made. And you know, the birth parents, when they are reunited and start forming those relationships. I've been working right now with a mom and a daughter, and the mom is out east, and the daughter is here in Iowa. And as they're getting to know each other and they're finding the similarities that they both have a love for music. Both ended up being teachers. You know, those sorts of things. And as they start sharing that, and the birth mom, you know, to say, I have grandchildren. She didn't have any grandchildren. And, you know, they're planning to get together this fall. And the daughter just said, you know, thank you so much for making the choice to have me, to place me for adoption. And the bond that they're forming, the mom now, the adoptee, the daughter, is in her 30s, and the birth mom's in her late 60s. And it is just it is a blessing in my life to get to be a part of watching them form relationships. And they're doing it slowly. They're doing it through emails. They haven't talked yet. And, you know, it's just it's a pretty special thing. That's
absolutely. And another thing that is going on here in Siouxland is Mercy Medical Center, which I believe now is Mercy Siouxland 1, with their many changes. That's the only Catholic hospital in northwest Iowa. Started a program to help our veterans. And I know Catholic Charities has also done things to help our veterans. And, you know, we think veteran, I think of my dad, you know, World War II vet, but there are veterans now who are much younger.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially Korean War veterans, Vietnam War veterans, veterans from Afghanistan. And what are the kinds of things does Catholic Charities provide veterans?
Right. And I think that is so important. You know, I think, you know, my dad was a veteran too, so I held a special place in my heart as well. But, you know, one of the things I think that's most important, and we've had all of our staff trained. Wade Keel from out at the Air Guard provided training. I think it's having specialized training to be culturally, meaning the veterans' culture, sensitive and understanding where they're coming from, so that if we do have a vet or their family come in, that they know that we have some understanding of the world that they live in and the environment that they're coming from, so that we can be supportive of them, that we will make sure that we are able to connect them with the resources that they need, and that we aren't going to judge them for what they've experienced.
Absolutely. So we're kind of coming to the end of the program. So if a listener thinks to themselves, gee, I'd really like to somehow support Catholic Charities, what is the best way for them to proceed, Amy?
I would say the easiest way is go to our website. We have information about all of our services, different ways if they want to give, or to find out more information about ways that they can do that. My contact information is there. Amy Jones is our Director of Development and Marketing. All of our office information is there, and it's cathchar.com, which is, I know it's not very fun, but if you Google Catholic Charities of Sioux City, that is the easiest way to do it, Joanne.
Absolutely. So, listeners, again, I want to thank my guest in the studio, Amy Block, who's Executive Director of Catholic Charities for the Diocese of Sioux City. Always a treat to share with our listeners the many wonderful things Catholic Charities does.
Thank you so much. This has been great, Joanne. Thanks for having me.
So again, listeners, thank you for being supportive and listening to this show. And I remind you, on behalf of my executive producer, Ann Reed, and myself, that a faithful reaction is good, but faith in action is so much better. Thanks for listening, and God bless.